I'd like to acknowledge and thank our two keynote speakers, Selwyn Button, Assistant Director General of Indigenous Education for State Schools in Queensland, DETA, and Laurie Shepherd, Principal of Victoria Park State School in Mackay. I'd like to thank all presenters and their schools for taking the time to come present at the summit. Some of you have travelled to really long distances. We have people here from Townsville, Mackay, Blackwater, Bundaberg, the Golden Sunshine Coast, Lowood, and northern and southern suburbs of Brisbane. Finally, I particularly welcome and thank attendees from schools who are not currently involved in YuMi Deadly Centre projects for coming along to see what YuMi Deadly Maths is all about. Please take the opportunity to talk to any of us with this t-shirt on, and also to talk to the presenters and ask them how things are going. I invite you to be inspired, engaged and informed by the 2014 YDC Sharing Summit as it explores the theme of transforming learning communities through YuMi Deadly Maths.
I'd like to thank Tom and his team for inviting me along. I had the pleasure of meeting Tom, it's been about 10 years ago I think, Tom, when I was working in the education department then previously in another role. I think I was working in the curriculum branch at the time, doing some work around the old Partners for Success and developing what was then the start of the EATSIP stuff, the Embedding Indigenous Perspectives. So that all started in the curriculum branch about 10 years ago. And Tom and Annette Batura came and had a conversation with me about this concept in relation to Deadly Maths that they'd started and some work they were doing in Warrabinda at the time. And we thought it was terrific because it was looking at how we take traditional Indigenous knowledge concepts and start to embed them in the maths curriculum to work out, is that going to make a difference? Literacy and numeracy outcomes are seen as critical things, certainly because of NAPLAN and because of what we've been able to see in terms of trending in that space. And look, it's important to note that NAPLAN will continue to be used as the baseline because it's the only common instrument that we've got. 2014 NAPLAN achievement, looking at what's happened this year in terms of comparison for Indigenous and non-Indigenous, what you can actually see across the banding itself is that there is still a fair way to go. There's still some challenges. There's still some things that we need to do and things we need to focus on around numeracy achievement for Indigenous across 3, 5, 7 and 9. Important though is what we're seeing more of, certainly where we're looking at the white and the greens, is that where we've got the upper bands, there has been significant improvement in the upper bands for Indigenous kids across Queensland. In Mount Isa, at Spinifex, I think it was Spinifex, Tom, at Spinifex, that there were students who were only turning up to school when maths was on, because what they were teaching in the maths class was YuMi Deadly Maths. They were using that in their practice on a day-to-day basis. Is anyone from Mount Isa here? So you can verify the story for the guys. But what that says for me is that you've created a class environment where those students feel safe and supported. They want to be there. You've created a safe and supportive environment.
Okay, now what we did notice with those particular kids in that lesson is they were still doing reversals. When we had the picture there, that was fine, but when it came to rubbing out the actual X1, X2 and putting the correct numbers in, they were still doing it the other way around. So that gave us the opportunity to say, okay kids, let's just go back and do a lesson just using the grids and practice. I colour code things. Excuse me. So on my x-axis I might have a yellow highlighter for the kids and a pink highlighter on the y-axis, and if we have to change colour pens every time then we'll do that. The important part is they actually get the right things in the correct spot in the formulas. So I'll go back in, okay, if you're going to be a builder, if you don't want to be at school next year, that's fine, but when you go for that job, they're going to ask you to answer some questions. You don't want to be embarrassed, so let's go and find out the type of questions that they might ask you. We do trade application booklets, etc.
And I said to the teacher, do you realise that all these kids using calculators, not just because they're lazy, they don't even know that there is a link with multiplication? And he said, oh yeah, I started to notice that, and yeah, we were going to work on division, but oh, you know, it's kind of time factor. And I said, you know, this is what I've done in my Year 8 class, and this is with a mix of kids with special needs and learning support. And I said, you know, I had to get out the Unifix cubes and I'd make, you know, 3 groups of 5 with the same colour. And then you could swap it around and make 5 groups of 3, and so they've seen the turnaround factor. And then of course we go to the division, so you put them all together, and I haven't changed the amount, I've still got 15, and then we divided it up into 3 groups, 5 in each group, divided into 5 groups, 3 in each group. And I said, it's such an easy way to show it. And he said, well, I don't know how to do that, I'm not primary trained.
I've got this human being standing in front of me, they're 7 years old. What makes sense to a 7-year-old child? What's going on for them? How do they perceive the world? What can I expect of their cognitive faculties, and what's way beyond them and what's below them as well? Because if you pitch it too low, most of us know that's baby stuff. That's baby stuff, sir. I learnt that in kindergarten or whatever. So either way, if our pitching is inappropriate, then we lose the engagement. With that story and that picture in their mind, the children, it depends, they might be, oh, well, there's a girl night, she's my favourite. Or I'm really fast like the little night. Or, oh, my dad's really strong like the big night, whatever. Whatever connection they want to make, I've got them. I've got them engaged. I've engaged their feelings. They're thinking about it. Then I can start to give you the dry. Once I've got you. So how that translates in terms of the Ramrah stuff, your story, of course, is the reality. And largely I'd like to pitch it that the story is the reality of the children that you're teaching.
Dive into learning, achieve your personal best. We went through, we were looking for something that we wanted parents to aspire to, we wanted students to aspire to, we wanted teachers to aspire to. We were one of the only schools in Mackay with a pool, so the dive was quite self-evident. But the achieving your personal best is what we want kids to do. We're about being inclusive, and that's one of the things about the YuMi Deadly Maths, is that it includes everyone. It's not just the focus on Indigenous kids, because good pedagogy lifts everyone. So we want good pedagogy in our maths. We have our values in our education. We have our traditional values about, we expect you to be a responsible person, a respectful person, and when you're at school, you're safe and a learner. So they're our values.
So what does that make altogether? Fun and meaningful learning in maths. I have happy kids in my class, they're smiling, they're having fun, they're enjoying their maths. I have kids wanting to do maths. They are more of a risk taker now. They have a deeper understanding, and it's because they've developed that understanding themselves, and the discussions we have in maths are really meaningful and powerful. It is amazing, by letting kids talk, what you learn about them.
And we also became a Centre of Excellence in YuMi Deadly Maths on the 11th of September that year.
So 2014 was a very special year at Marsden State School. Like quite a few schools in our low socio-economic area, we don't often achieve levels similar to that of the nation. This year we had our first blue, our first ever blue in any strand over any year. Very, very, very excited.
Hi everyone, I'm Kirsten and I'm from the 3 to 6 department at Caboolture Special School. Within our department we also teach maths groups where the students are grouped according to the level at which they're accessing the Australian curriculum. My maths group, however, didn't really work out that way, so I have students that have not very strongly established forms of communication that access the curriculum through the general capabilities, through to students that would be working at achievement standards of possibly grade 1 with some aspects of grade 2.
We talk about NAPLAN and our relative gain. So here's our 3 to 5 and 5 to 7 relative gain. You can see our Indigenous gain in those year levels versus the state. So it really is working very well with our Indigenous kids. But our 5 to 7 gain is really good. And this year, it was our very first blue flag as well in Year 7 numeracy.
our learning would not be fulfilled if we did not have opportunities to actually go out into your schools, work with your teachers and your students, as scary as sometimes that is, but we would not be fulfilled and understand all things to do with mathematics teaching and learning. So it's a big thank you from myself, and I'm sure from the team for opening up your schools, your doors, your gates, and allowing us to come and work with you.